I apologize to you all. I am a terrible person. It has taken way too long to get to the recording of this fourth episode of Sage Soliloquy with yours truly, Zelda Sage of Fire, as the Sage providing the soliloquy for you to listen to. I apologize profusely for the 2+ month delay. It shan't happen again. Now, a lot of stuff's been going on, as you can see. That is not my usual backdrop. Usually you see me in my blue recliner with a statue of Alduin behind my head, and a poster of the movie Brave off in the distance, and little random pictures from like Lord of the Rings, and Rodrigo the Golden Chicken, my esteemed colleague, is usually a light on my shoulder, but alas, I am house sitting. For people I've known actually for quite some time, my friend Steve's parents. I've been here for over 2 weeks now, and yes, let's just leave it at that. So, after having watched my previous episode to figure out just where exactly I needed to pick this up, I have decided that the topic of Zelda is too broad to just talk about right now, especially considering that it is approximately 2:57 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, and I'm kind of tired, but I'm probably not going to be sleeping tonight, so, oh well. Let's see here. So, instead of just focusing on Zelda the whole time, I'm going to, I have 3 topics for you, as the title screen showed you. The first of which comes from a question from the last video, that I did not answer from Talizora. And the question is, if you got to direct a movie, what would it be about, and who would you cast? It is an excellent question, because I'm torn between picking a book or a game that I really love and making that into a movie. And I'm torn between that option and choosing a story of my own and making that into a movie. And I really can't honestly decide. I think my first choice would probably be using other source material that someone else has made. I would probably try and make Metroid Prime into a movie. I think that could be really well done if you do it right. The only question is who to cast as Samus. Not a lot of people will agree with me on this, but I think Emma Stone could do it. I'm probably biased to Emma Stone, but I really don't care. This is my video, not yours. So I'm going to pick Emma Stone to play Samus Aran in a movie version of Metroid Prime. As for a movie that would be based on one of my own stories, see, I've got a lot that could be turned into movies at some point. I think it'd be something kind of cool to explore in the distant and far-off future when, I've got stories finished and published and hopefully maybe on a store shelf somewhere. I think the story / book, novel, whatever you want to call it, that I'm writing about a magical city called Silnavar would be pretty cool as a movie. Then the question is, who would I cast for the 3 main characters? I'd probably cast... Good grief. Depending on how old and crusty he looks now, the kid who played Murtaugh from the Aragon movie, I'd probably cast him as Matthias, the first main male character. I'd probably cast... Hello. really sure who I'd cast for the female. It would probably have to be an interesting and difficult coin toss. Probably Emma Stone again, but I don't know. What shall we do? And then the other main male character, I'd need someone not quite as manly, I guess you could say, because he's a mage. Who would be a good guy? Shoot, his name is right there. Michael Fassbender. If we can make him look young, that could probably be a good match, I think. So yeah, if I was going to make a movie based on one of the books I'm writing, I would probably pick those three people for the main characters. Alright. I mean, don't expect me to make a movie anytime soon. Cinema and directing is probably not my thing. Alright. The next topic I shall talk about for a little while is something that Talizora also brought up a bit of time later after the last video. She asked me to talk about the Mass Effect trilogy and the Fable trilogy. Compare the two franchises, share my likes and dislikes of each, and potentially match them together. Pardon me while I read this text. It's going to be awkward and silent for a minute, but it'll be okay, I promise. Alright, there we go. I am now free to continue. So, I will start by talking about Mass Effect. I was introduced to Mass Effect, and Fable actually, through my friend Steve, because originally I only owned Nintendo consoles, and I had heard about Fable from a couple friends, but I'd never tried it, and it looked kind of interesting, but it really didn't make much sense to me. And the same with Mass Effect, actually. Steve would rant and rave about this game, Mass Effect, and how it was this awesome science fiction, spacefaring RPG, and how cool the bad guy was just because of his motivations and the way he did things. And it took me a long time to finally play it. The first time I borrowed it, I played it for like 10 minutes and was like, this is weird. It's like a shooter, but it's not. And I'm no good at shooters, so this game isn't for me. And I gave it back to him. But 6 months to a year later, I borrowed it again. And I tried it out and really dug into it. And I completely agree with him. It is an amazing game, the first one. It is difficult, it's challenging, it's complex. And it's one of the funnest RPGs I've played in a long time. Mass Effect 2 upped the ante for storytelling while dumbing down a lot of the RPG elements. And it initially really bothered me. Actually, I probably would say Mass Effect 2 is my least favorite game in the series, simply because it was so combat heavy and the RPG elements were just missing. No inventory screen in an RPG? Really? BioWare? Come on now. It's an RPG, for crying out loud. Inventory screen. But I mean, it was a gorgeous game. The story was great. The characters were awesome. The quests you had to do and stuff. It was really, they really were just upping the ante for the story. And it culminates in Mass Effect 3, which was brilliant. It really was the perfect way to do a Mass Effect game, I think, with the combination of, they brought a lot of the RPG elements back from Mass Effect 1. Not necessarily the inventory screen, which was still frustrating, but you had more chances to customize the equipment you took with you. They gave you more places and more chances to do that, rather than just when you're leaving the Normandy in Mass Effect 2. Plus, the level cap was bumped back up to 60 from level 30, and you gain experience for, killing things, like in Mass Effect 1. Unlike Mass Effect 2, where you only get experience for completing your missions. It was really frustrating in 2. I would always gain a level at the end of a mission, but I'd have to get to the end of the mission first. And Mass Effect 3 did a really, really good job of balancing the stupid amounts of combat in Mass Effect 2 with the deep and complex RPG elements of 1 to make a game that was very polished and very well done, and the story was just mind-blowing. A lot of people disliked the ending. I just beat it a couple weeks ago, and I didn't download any of the extra scenes or anything first. I wanted to see the pure ending the way it was originally made, and really, I didn't have too many problems with it. Maybe that's because I like to do everything, and I wanted my effective military strength to be as high as freaking possible to get the best ending possible, because that's what I do. So I did, and I think I picked the right choice, and it was resolved, and it was I was not upset. I was not jumping out of my seat cheering, yes, huzzah, the great things have happened and everyone is happy. But it's that's a fitting end. It's resolved and it was good. So I stand by BioWare. I think they made the right choice. Now for Fable. The first Fable was another game that just kind of blew me away when I first played it. It was awesome. It was like Zelda with RPG elements and quests, and it was awesome. Not to demean Zelda in any way. I mean, obviously, Ocarina of Time is still my favorite game ever, but the first Fable was excellent, and I still have it. I still play it, especially the Lost Chapters. That was the real way to play the game. I mean, that final boss, Jack of Blades, the second time, yeah. Fable 2. Again, the second title in the series, in the trilogy, is my least favorite. Which is weird, because I think I might have actually spent the most time on Fable 2. They kind of dumbed that down a little bit, too, because they gave you the glowing trail, which would basically just hold your hand and lead you to your next objective, and you wouldn't even have to look at what your background looked like to figure out how to get out of the area. And then if you turn the glowing trail off, you get lost. I know I did. Plus, they moved it from a fantasy setting with magic and heroes and everything to just about Industrial Revolution, which I really didn't like initially. I was like, what? It's a fantasy RPG game, and you're making the sequel in Industrial Revolution era London? Really? And one of the biggest things about the game that just irked me to no end was the fact that it feels like your character is running on ice. You make an adjustment and your character just kind of slides into a turn instead of turning. So that was... You think that's a petty issue to get worked up about for a game, but it really bothered me. When you play a game for over 80 hours and you're running on ice the whole time, not fun. Plus, this will be spoiler warnings for those of you who still haven't played Fable 2. The ending sucks. The final boss fight isn't a final boss fight, okay? It was lame. I was mad. I was like, that's the final boss fight? Boss fight. The final boss bit me. That would have been something more. Now, Fable 3. lot of people didn't like Fable 3. And personally, I don't know why. I really don't. Much in the way that Mass Effect 3 took the great elements of 2 and 1 and put them together, I thought Fable 3 did kind of the same thing. It takes a lot of the like the setting and the regions and the leveling up system of Fable 2 and makes the character, play a lot more like your character in Fable 1. You're no longer running on ice. You can dodge real fast and do sword attacks and transition between melee and ranged real quick, and I just thought it was better. It wasn't as long as Fable 2. I'll give you that. And being the king or queen, it did get over pretty quick. But it had a final boss fight. And it wasn't necessarily super easy. Plus, there is a way to save everybody in Albion, and it's not that hard. You don't even have to be a douchebag. You just save your money and don't buy anything. Not that hard. Actually, no. That was incorrect. Do buy things. Buy property. Houses and stores. And you'll just get money that you won't be able to spend. You'll have so much money you won't know what to do with yourself. And just put it in the treasury, and boom, Albion is saved. You can be a good guy, keep all your promises. And then you can mop up any side quests you missed and do the DLC. So, as a trilogy, Mass Effect, it's one of the finest game trilogies I've played. It has an amazing, engaging, and mature and deep story to follow from game 1 to game 3. And the way that they implemented the choices and everything. I made choices in Mass Effect 1 that didn't appear at all in 2, and then really just came back to hit me in the face in 3. It was really impressive to see how they did that. And I'm looking forward to see what BioWare does next, because, they're masters at this, obviously. I'm very much looking forward to Dragon Age 3. But yeah, Mass Effect is great. Anyone who hasn't played the trilogy, you should. Right now, go buy it. They have the Mass Effect trilogy available for the Xbox and the PlayStation 3. Just go buy it. It's simple. Fable, it's a trilogy that I love and is very dear to me. I'm a big fan of Fable, but I have mixed feelings about it, because the first Fable was great, and I loved Fable 3, and Fable 2 is good in its own right. Not as good when I compare it to the other two, but it's good. My problem with Fable has always been that it's like it was Peter Molyneux's little toy, and he was just going to screw around with it how he saw fit and make a bunch of promises that he couldn't deliver on, and then give us a game that felt 2/3 of the way finished. As much as I like and enjoy the games, it was really like, okay, so you promised this and this and this, and only that one is there, and it's like cut in half from what you said. So, I love the games. Anyone who hasn't tried them should. But just be prepared for it to not live up to the hype and the promises that Molyneux made, because the man's famous for making promises he can't keep, and is really reflected in the games. As far as matching them together, I don't think I could do that. It is my firm belief that a fantasy universe and a science fiction universe should not cross over, because then it would just get weird. Even when the fantasy universe is set in a industrial revolution like Fable 2 and 3. So, I think I'm just going to leave them separate. We don't need any Mass Fable or Fable Effect games. I'm not really a big fan of mashup games to begin with, unless the two games are very similar. So, alright. Enough about that. Now the final topic, it probably won't take very long. But since I'm foregoing to talk about Zelda the whole time, I figured I would take the time to mention that I am super excited about the news Nintendo just announced a week or two ago, whenever it was, that not only are they working on a new original Zelda, but because it's going to take forever for the new Zelda to come out, they're giving us a high-definition remake of the Wind Waker for the Wii U. And that excites me like I cannot state. I mean, Wind Waker obviously is not my favorite Zelda game, but it was amazing, and it was long, and it was challenging, and it was fun. So, I plan on buying the Wind Waker HD, maybe twice, I don't know. But yeah, I plan to buy it and play the crap out of it, because that's what I do. And I'm very excited, and you should all look up screenshots for it. And if anyone has a release date or any other extra information that it doesn't seem like I have, give it. It's not that hard. You know how to get a hold of me if you're on the pipe. If you're on YouTube, leave a comment. If you know me in person, just tell me, please. Alright, now 21 minutes in. Let's get to the questions. There's a big long list because it's been a long time. And I'm just going to blast through all of them. With one exception, and I'll explain that later. Okay. The first questions come from Nintendo Queen. The first question goes as follows. What color grass do you plant in your yard? Well, it really depends on the kind of day I'm having in the season. I think we usually go with yellow most of the time when it's dry. We usually go with yellow. We find it's a nice contrast to the green of the trees. Sometimes we'll go blue, sometimes pink. My brother Caleb has a little purple patch going on somewhere. Sometimes we even go white. Or beige. Fuchsia, maybe? I don't know. It's really just, it depends on the day. There's no set color. It's just it's kind of crazy sometimes. Sometimes I walk out in the front yard and it's like, am I on drugs? So yeah, I'm not the only one who plants grass. It gets kind of crazy. The next question. What M&Ms are my favorite? The Reese's M&Ms. Duh. Anything with peanut butter. Oh, I'm there. And Spin Dash wanted me to reference a movie. Honestly, I have no idea what you're talking about. You can feel free to enlighten me, please, because I'm lost. I was like, M&M's in a movie quote. I could very well know exactly what you're talking about, but my brain has decided to have a brain fart, and it's just gone. So, yeah. Alright. Now the next, 8 or 9 questions come from Talizora. I'm going to try and whip through these as quickly as possible. If you were forced to listen to one of the 2 types of music for an entire day, which would you choose, rap or country? Country. It's easier to ignore. I've gotten used to ignoring it. Most of the girls I know in person, that's all they listen to, and I really don't know why, because it's just whiny and depressing songs about what you don't have anymore. I've become used to just tuning it out. Rap music, I want to grab an axe and use it on things that are alive when I hear rap music. Okay, next question. A pretzel with cheese sauce or a bowl of ice cream? That would depend entirely on 2 different things. What kind of cheese sauce is it? What kind of ice cream? Because if it's a bowl of my favorite ice cream versus the really tasty beer cheese dip from Red Robin or Applebee's, I'd have to just flip a coin. Because it really depends on the cheese sauce and the ice cream. So if you can get back to me, maybe I can revise my answer. If you had to choose between letting a hobo sleep in your bed for a day or living at home for the rest of your life, which would you choose and why? I'd let the hobo sleep in my bed. Because the hobo probably needs a decent sleep, my bed's comfortable, and I can wash everything. And then I can leave home. I've been cooped up in a house for over 2 weeks now, and it is driving me insane. I think I'm losing it. I really think so. So yeah, I let the hobo sleep in my bed, and then I just wash everything 1,000 times or replace it. I don't care. Hobos need good sleep too. If you had 3 wishes that would have consequences, what would the 3 wishes be? Consequences will be given after the video is made. I remember Nintendo Queen getting asked this question. It was from Slasher, and he had some really outlandish consequences, so I'm expecting the same thing. My first wish would be to turn all dogs into goldfish. My second wish would be to make cotton candy a required item at all sorts of gatherings, like birthday parties and holidays and everything. My third wish eliminate vampires and the undead stuff, like The Walking Dead and Twilight and stuff. I'm so sick of it. It's driving me nuts. Everyone in this country is obsessed with that nonsense, and I really don't know why. Some people like it. Okay, cool. That's your choice, but it's my choice to dislike it and be sick of it. So that's what I'm gonna do, and that would be my third wish, to just get rid of it all. Okay, so hit me with your best shot on these consequences. Would you rather swim with hungry blind sharks or have your guitar painted pink with Hello Kitty? Again, I have two questions to answer this with. Am I bleeding if I swim with the sharks? Because if I'm not bleeding, they probably wouldn't even know I'm there. And for the guitar, once it's painted pink with Hello Kitty, can I paint it again? Because if I can paint over the Hello Kitty stuff, I'll just paint the guitar twice. What is the worst video game I've ever played, and what made it bad in my eyes? Fallout Brotherhood of Steel. I don't even have to think about it. It's the only game I've ever had and sold back, and not at some point in the future wanted to buy again. It was a terrible attempt at an offshoot in the Fallout series, which most fans don't even acknowledge its existence. And it was a top-down shooter, which just doesn't work. Like, imagine playing Gauntlet Legends on the Nintendo 64, for example. It's a top-down dungeon crawler. Imagine you're playing that game. You can't see the targets you're supposed to be shooting, so you can't hit the targets that you're supposed to be shooting. The story is terrible. The visuals are terrible. It was, I can't even fully describe how terrible this game was. Don't play it. Don't buy it. No. Look it up online if you're really curious, but it's just terrible. What is the worst book I've ever read, and did you actually stick with it to the end? If so, why? This will probably make you upset, Talizora. But honestly, I think the worst book that I've personally ever read was The Da Vinci Code by Dan Brown. I just didn't like it. Maybe it's because I'm a Christian and I disliked the things he was saying. And I was a teenager when I read it. Maybe if I read it again, I could appreciate the story value that it does have. But I also remember something about how initially he tried to say that it was fiction, and then he was starting to believe the fiction he wrote, and was like trying to say that, yeah, that actually happened that way. And I could be incorrect in thinking that, but when an author starts to believe fiction that he wrote, I'm no thank you. I did read all of it. Wanted to throw it across the room a couple times, but for me, it was the worst book I've read. So, what is the grossest thing I have ever eaten? Rice-A-Roni. Also, Dr. Pepper does not suck. It is divine beverage perfection. Have you ever had an acquired moment? I'm assuming you mean awkward moment. So that's how I'm going to answer this question. Have you ever had an awkward moment accompanied by a strange bodily function? Well, the last time I got the stomach flu and threw up, I threw up in the McDonald's parking lot in the middle of town, middle of the day. That was kind of embarrassing and awkward. I almost blacked out in the bathroom. That was kind of scary. Plus, anytime you fart in the complete silence, that's always just a little awkward. But it doesn't really bother me when you better out than in, right? Most of my bodily functions, I don't consider them awkward, so. Also, I'm not going to plank. You don't want to see this plank. Zelda Sage of Fire does not plank. He has his minions plank for him. I'll even post a picture in the thread about it. You'll see. Okay. Now the last two questions for the night. They are from Slasher. And his first question is, when did you first start using red text? Which is actually a very good question. I'm known on the Nintendo pipeline for being the only person really to use colored text in every single post I make. And I always use a bright red text. Partially because of my name, Zelda Sage of Fire. Orange was difficult enough to read. I figured red would be better. But actually, it started a really, really long time ago. Back when the pipe started, back in 2006, about this time in 2006, I used purple text initially on the first original incarnation of the site. And after a little while, I kind of got sick of the purple and changed over to red. So I've been using the red text since the old version of the site that no longer exists. So somewhere between 6 and 7 years, and I don't really plan on stopping. It's so ingrained in my head. If I see text that isn't red and I'm typing it, I select it and I change it to red. It's just what I do. And then the final question is, have you drank or do I like cream soda? Oh yes. Henry Weinhard's cream soda, that is some really good stuff. It's delicious. If you have Henry Weinhard's over where you're at, find it, buy it, drink it, love it. And if you already have done this, then you know. If you haven't, what are you waiting for? If you don't have it, I'm sorry. I'll buy some for you and trade you for Waffle Crisp. Alright, and I think that will do it for all the questions in this video. The one question I'm not going to get to is once again provided by Shu, and he has once again provided me for the topic for my next episode. And that question goes as follows. Which Lord of the Rings character is my favorite and why? I would give you a hug if I could, Shu. Seriously. I don't know how you're always able to give me these questions, but so yeah, that'll be the first topic I talk about in the next video. Hopefully some of you will present me with another one. Also, I'm going to let you know on a sort of schedule change that I'm going to do for these videos so that I can kind of keep my consistency up rather than just doing fluctuating. I'll do 2 videos in a week and then wait a month and then do another one and so on. I basically decided that I'm going to be recording these on Saturdays. At some point on Saturday, it will get recorded and uploaded. So that should give you all enough time to watch it, think about questions, topics, what have you, and get back to me. So I'm going to start this Saturday. So have stuff for me by Saturday. And if I don't do it, I'll have someone slap me on the wrist and I'll fix it. But I figure having a set day, just, okay, I'm going to record, I'm going to do it on that day. That should help me get a little better with it. So, thank you for watching, listening, what have you. Hopefully it wasn't too boring. Hopefully it was interesting, especially after so long hearing nothing. You haven't heard my lovely voice in over a month. 2 months, actually. So, hopefully this nice 35-minute or so video will hold you over until Saturday. And that should be shorter. I say that every time and the videos keep getting longer, so I really don't know. It depends on how many essays of questions I get. So, without further ado, I will see you all Saturday.